And we are live. What is up? What is up? What is up, guys? Welcome back to Warriors Way Home, the podcast for the greatest place on earth for honorable masculinity. I'm your host, Travis, with my co host, Edmund. What up, Ed?
What's going on, guys? Happy Friday to you. Hope your week has been good. Hope you've been good to your week.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We're going to hop right into it, man, because we got a hot one tonight. We got a hot one tonight. And we want all the smoke. I'm going to put a disclaimer on this one. This is not a diss to moms. This is not a diss to baby moms. This is not a
Mm.
diss to grandmamas, baby mamas, mamas, uh,
Mamas,
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 mamas.
mamas, mamas, mamas. This is a diss to all
Yeah,
of them. No, I'm
man.
joking. I'm joking. Yeah. This isn't about that. This is about us, the men, the guys, the boys, the kids, the sons, um, raised by those moms,
Mm.
and the pitfalls that we face as men raised in a household where we'll say the mother is the primary parent. We'll say.
That is the best way to put it and not be hateful.
Well, I'm gonna put it a different way. Raised by your mama and your mama's mama and your grandmama and your mammy.
Basically, anybody who was not raised with a man living in the house with them, or
Yeah,
for some other examples, if they were, but they still weren't the best. You know what I mean? So, like, but
yeah,
the main focus being that if you grew up primarily under your mother, maybe if your dad was around, that's cool. But if he wasn't in the household, I think it's the same issue, regardless if your dad was in your life or not. You know what I mean? Because it's really just that
yeah,
male masculine presence being in the home that is the real topic of today's conversation.
yeah. So what prompted this? What prompted this was Mother's Day just passed, and people were like, "Man, these dudes want the smoke. They must hate their moms." All they're coming with all kinds of different stuff, man. I love my mama. So, mama, I love you. She's probably not
Mama,
watching,
I
but
love you.
yeah,
POP, wrote it down.
she probably ain't watching, but it's whatever. But anyway, what prompted this topic was both of us at one point were being raised primarily by mothers, and to put it bluntly, man, it made a hard go of it. To be honest, it's like a lot of things were, um, just to put it plain, a mother, a woman cannot teach a boy to be a man. Period. Point blank. Period. I don't care who you are. It just can't happen. There are certain things that a woman cannot teach a boy that he needs to know on that path to becoming a man,
Yeah,
and she just doesn't have. She's not equipped with the tools to teach him what he needs to know in that instance. Just not, and it can lead to a lot. There are a lot of men out here who were raised by mothers, like I said, grandmothers, women in his life who didn't have that male figure to help guide him along the way, who are struggling now in their lives to figure themselves out and to figure out their way in life. It leads
yeah,
to a lot of pitfalls, man, and that's one of those things we don't necessarily talk enough about because I think a lot of people are too scared to offend women, to disgrace their mom, to do all these different things like that, not to have that real conversation about what is the result of this. Not was your mom a good person, not
right.
did she do the best she can, but what was the result of what you got on the end of this?
Right.
What struggles did you have? What did you not know? What did you not learn? What are you still struggling with now to figure out?
Mhm.
What would you have been farther along if you had had that guidance in your life? That's what we're
Right.
talking about today.
Right. And that's funny because you said that your mom probably doesn't watch. I know my mom watches our stuff. Hi,
Oh,
mom.
I'm sorry.
No, but it's important because
I'm sorry.
like
I'm sorry,
she
Mama Lewis. I'm sorry. I'm not a terrible person like I show up on podcasts. I know I cuss a lot. I'm
no,
sorry. Love you.
she actually likes you actually. She watched our
How would
episode
you
with
not?
Jason the other
I'm
time.
amazing.
Uh, I could give her lots of reasons why she wouldn't, but but
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
she
yeah.
saw our episode with Jason, and she really liked it as far as like, or no, I'm sorry, with Soul, and she liked some of the content that we had. So it's like, no, she definitely watches. She appreciates what we're doing, and I think that is still a tribute to her because without what I went through under her, and also like my dad and all the other stuff that I've kind of gone through, like there would not be a reason for me to talk about this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I think I'm a good example of how things can go right, but there are still things that are lacking just in the in the upbringing kind of thing if you don't have that co-parenting, or she had the co-parenting, but it's like the two-parent household itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's still a good amount of,
Perfect
I'll call it
transition.
instability that happens.
Perfect
Yeah,
transition. So let's dig right into it. What are some of the struggles
yeah,
that what would you say has been maybe one of the biggest struggles that you faced? Um, and a little bit of background on, kind of how you grew up, because we talked about it a little bit, but some people might not
yeah,
know how you kind of grew, how
yeah.
you kind of were raised, and some of the one of the biggest struggles you've had in that transition from boyhood to teenager to manhood in that
For
process.
sure. Um, so for those who don't know, my parents split up when I was like 10 or 11, between 9 and 11, I'll say, because I really don't remember the age itself. And I was old enough to remember my parents having the arguments and, actually splitting up kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's a hard thing to watch when you're old enough to realize what's going on, because something in the back of your mind always wants them to like come back together. My parents were never married, but they were together for like years and years before I came around, but it was like an on and off kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I have an older brother, who's 9 years older than me, so we have two different dads. So seeing how he grew up without his dad, and seeing how my dad was still trying to be in my life, very active. He watches as well. Shout out to Pops. But when
What
you
up,
don't have
pops?
a strong male figure in the home, there's still a lot that goes unmissed. We talked about it when we first kind of met. There was a feeling of instability that I had
Mm,
growing up, where we did a practice called 7 levels deep, where we got to like really get to know each other and also figure out what is the core thing that, like, if you want to be successful, why do you want to be successful, is the ultimate
mhm.
thing that we came up
What
with.
drives you? What's your
And for
why?
me, yeah, yeah. So like, what's that deep thing that you're trying to heal or get rid of or solve or whatever that helps you be successful? And for
Yeah.
me, it was stability. Why do I want a family? Why do I want to build a business? Why do I want to do whatever I'm doing? And it's because there was a sense of a lack of stability in that, because my brother was kind of like the angry kid kind of thing, where his dad wasn't around, and for whatever reason it instilled a lot of, I would say, angst and impatience and all that. Then my mom was working really hard, like 2 3 jobs, the typical, you know what I'm saying, like 2 3
Yeah.
jobs, trying to raise a couple of boys on her own, feeling as if she had to raise men was the real thing. I think a lot of
Attempt
women
to.
feel like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah, they feel like they have to try to raise men, which causes them to be a bit, not harsher, but like try to be the disciplinarian
More
and
masculine.
the nurturer. Yeah, try to be more masculine kind of thing. So
Hmm.
I definitely got my work ethic from both my parents, but watching my mom maneuver the way that she did, working for the government, having side gigs, all that stuff, like that go was definitely instilled in me. Not for entrepreneurship right away, but just for like, you got to make sure that you're never on welfare, you're never on food stamps, you're never having any type of government assistance. We weren't on Section 8. We didn't have any of that,
Hmm.
but the work it takes to get to that point is super strenuous, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but without having, um so my brother being, trying to figure out his own shit, my mom always working, so I was kind of like in the house by myself a lot, or not engaging with like neighborhood kids and all that stuff. So I feel like if I would have had a strong male figure in my life, in the home, like during the entire time, I could have learned a lot more, directly from him, instead of having to catch up on some things on the outside. Like when you're, perfect example, the whole like bro code. Nobody ever taught me that. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like I didn't have anybody
yeah.
telling me like when you're having what to do, how to interact with other men or other boys when you're having male friendships. So
Gotcha.
like, yeah, you don't talk to your friend's girl, or how to make sure that you're, having somebody else's back. If nobody has your back, you're not having anybody else's back. You know what I mean? So it was just a lot that, when it came to that instability, it was like everybody's dealing with their own emotions. I don't even know how to cope with mine or even give it a name. So then you kind of become, like we've talked about previously, you become aloof. So
Mm,
it taught me to really not, it taught me to disengage with people more than trying to work my way through whatever the emotional issue was. And not to
yeah.
say that women can't teach like conflict resolution, but it's better for a man to learn that from other men, because you are having to look from that perspective. A man can't solve problems the way a woman would.
I was gonna
And it's
say,
not saying that
women
either one's
fight different, man. Women fight. Women will go for
better.
that low blow, bro. It's in a
Yeah,
heartbeat. Hit you where it hurts.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. And honestly, I've noticed that in other male friends, if they were primarily raised by their mom and their dad wasn't in the picture at all, like I was able to at least have my dad in the picture. Some
Yeah.
men don't have their dad in the picture at all. So for the men that I was around that didn't have that, they would they would do low blows. Like that's the only way that they fought.
Mm.
They would get to you emotionally and try to more or less trigger you and still look at you like, oh, like, well, why are you getting all? If it wasn't true, you wouldn't be getting out been out of shape. It was like, well, if you was a real man, you wouldn't be hitting at me like that. You would be trying to come at it more logically, or have some level headedness to it. But you're only fighting off of your emotions because you're the one that's hurt as well. So
Yeah.
if you're hurting somebody else's feelings, you feel like you need to get your lick back. So then that's the kind of back and forth cattiness, pettiness that can be a bit more feminine, for being honest,
Yeah,
as
for
far
sure.
as like that conflict resolution.
The
I
problem with
was,
that with guys is it leads to violence. That's the issue, and a lot of guys don't. Um, I think a lot of guys who are primarily raised by women, who are raised by women, raised by their moms or whoever it may be, don't,
yeah,
if they've never been like in a fight before, they don't recognize that you being that way with another dude will probably end up with you getting punched in the face. It's
yeah,
just like that's the
yeah,
problem, is that there's a greater opportunity for violence. Is like
mhm,
you don't see too a lot of times when that happens with men and women. The guys don't just haul off and be like, ah, bow. But with dudes, man,
yeah.
it's like, okay, I couldn't hit her, but I can hit
I can
you.
get you for
It's
sure,
just like,
for
that's
sure.
that's that's a whole different thing there. It's like, and a lot of
Yeah.
times, those low blows end up in some actual blows. When it
Mhm.
when it comes to two dudes. So that's one of those, like I said, one of those things, one of those dynamics where it's like, if you're not raised by a guy that's like, hey, there's a line you don't cross with men. It's like don't talk to a guy disrespectfully unless you want to fight. Now, if you want to fight, do what you do. I had a
Mhm.
phrase I used to say to people, was like, you can say whatever you want to as long as you back it up in the parking lot. You can say whatever
Right.
you want to me as long as you can back it up in the parking lot. I don't care.
Mhm.
You can say whatever. But that minute you cross that line, we're not talking anymore.
Mhm.
It's like, so at that
Honestly,
at that point, it's like we're put them up. Let's go.
that's another thing too, though, because like my dad put me in karate and he put me in boxing, and when
Mm,
I started to get into it and actually start to like retain some stuff, is
yeah,
when I got pulled out of it because my mom thought it was too brutal, it was too much.
too
And
violent.
honest, if
Yeah.
I think I should have stayed in it and done wrestling in school or something on
Hmm.
top of that, not only would I have been a better martial artist coming up throughout my time, but it would have taught me about that conflict resolution, discipline, not to let your
Brotherhood.
emotions get out of brotherhood, not to let your emotions get out of hand. But these are not things that you think about as a kid. All
Hmm.
you know, or all people see is that you're punching stuff, or you're kicking
Yeah.
stuff, or breaking boards and all that. I think conflict resolution could have been solved in the dojo alone, even if my dad didn't teach me directly. But he
Yeah.
was very good at being like, look, you don't start fights, but you finish them.
Hmm.
So that kind of thing. But my mom never at all was never like, you need to get into a sport that wasn't like basketball. Anything above basketball, it was a no go.
Gotcha. So what would you
Yeah.
say has been the biggest challenge through that process, like that transition from, like I said, boy into, because that can be one of the hardest times, is when you're transitioning from that boy and you're stepping into that teenager. The hormones start going crazy. You start really feeling yourself. You start smelling yourself a bit,
Mhm.
and life can get, you know you go from cool to angry and this and that. Everything fucks with you,
Yeah.
and in the process of that, you don't have somebody really there that's like, hey, guy, calm down. You're okay. She's not going to be the last. I know your nose is wide open for this girl that you just met 5 minutes ago, and she's the love of your life. And there's no one else in the world that will
Yeah.
pass. It's like, this is just
Yeah.
for a moment. Take it easy. Don't make such crazy decisions. And keeps you, that almost that threat of like, don't get too out of pocket. Is that
Yeah.
you can get you? I was okay. I can tell you smelling yourself a little bit, but if you get too out of hand, you will get handled, type deal.
I would say emotional regulation was
Mm,
the biggest thing that I had missed. And honestly, truthfully, it was because nobody else had it around me. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like I was dealing with an older brother who had his own set of issues, where I would say he became more of like the intimidator than we said, like for the I keep wanting to talk about this Celestine prophecy thing so bad. So there are 4 different types
We
of
I gotta stop you. I actually found a video. We
ah,
did we did do it. We did
oh,
do
we
it.
did do it.
But
Okay.
yeah, we
Okay.
did do it. We recorded a video, but I actually wanted to tell you about it. I found it.
Okay.
But yeah, go
Okay.
ahead and talk about the real quickly.
The
Give us
4, yeah, yeah.
a quick
High level.
description of what the um intimidator
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. So the intimidator is somebody who they what is the
They
best way
intimidate.
to
Boom. All right,
is it
over. All right, we're good.
yes. There's somebody who in order to protect themselves, they produce an aura of like stay away from me, 10 feet type of thing. You know what I'm saying? They're more confrontational, I would say. Perfect example is that like when we were growing up, my mom would say that my brother would be somebody who would follow you around the house to prove his point, even though if you gave up the argument, I was the one who gave up the argument. I preferred to be aloof. I didn't want to be in any kind type of conflict. But if you pissed him off enough, he will track you down until his point is proven, type of thing. That is an intimidator.
You ever seen
So
the perfect
because
example?
of him
You
not
ever
being able
seen?
to,
Oop, you good?
yeah,
You buffered a little bit there on us.
yeah,
I was gonna say, perfect
no,
example.
I'm
You ever
good.
seen that? You remember the dog video like that's floating around on online? There's lots of them, but it's like one dog has a bone in his mouth, and the
Mhm,
other dog, they're like at a dog park, and it's just rah 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 rah, and trying to get it in his face, and the other dog's just kind of looking at him, and then finally he drops his bone,
mhm, mhm.
and then just goes at him.
Yeah,
The one that's barking like this, that's the
yeah,
intimidator. And
mhm,
here's the secret, guys. Most intimidators, not all, but most intimidators, a lot of them don't actually want a problem. They don't actually want the smoke. They don't want to
mhm,
fight. A lot of them, not all of them.
mhm,
Now,
mhm.
I'm not saying they can't fight. I'm not saying that, but they don't actually want to.
Yeah,
Like if you hauled off, turned
mhm,
around, and punched in the face, they'd be surprised because they don't expect you to actually do something. The intimidation is to try and close the issue to keep you from like really getting it. You're hitting too close to home, and to keep you
yeah,
away from that, I'm gonna
yeah.
until you either
I'm
just
gonna
go
dig into
away,
you, so you're
and-
too tired to dig into me.
until you give up or you go away. One of the two,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
For sure. But yeah, he was going through his stuff. My mom was working all the time. My dad was doing what he was doing, taking care of his mom, but also, trying to provide and all that stuff, trying to care for 2 households as much as he could. But yeah, I did go to therapy for a bit, but it wasn't for that. It wasn't for emotional regulation. So when it came to me arguing with somebody, I would just go the fuck away. I
Yep.
would just not talk to you for like 2 weeks. And then when I was over it, I would try to come back and it 9 times out of 10, I would say that the issue was solved or could be solved, but 2 weeks is a long time to be stewing on something. And it pushes people away from you. I've
Yep.
pushed more people away from me thinking that just by not engaging in the conflict, I'm either proving myself right or just trying to let it die down and all that stuff. The best way for something to die down is to actually talk through it with the person you have an issue with as soon as possible, so that you don't have all these different scenarios and stuff kind of floating around your head and you don't even know what they're thinking. They might be like, you know what, I'm done, type of thing. Like, I'm not going to engage this person at all. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, but that goes back to that conflict resolution stuff. You need to be able to, when you feel offended or whatever, setting those boundaries and working your way through them in a calm, logical manner is the thing that a man is supposed to do, not get all angry and start cussing back. It's not like men who try to catcall women and they get rejected and it's like, well, bitch, you was ugly anyway. Da, 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 da. That's not control, my guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's an intimidator, but maybe it is, but it's not a good, it's not a good
It's
look.
a defense mechanism.
Hmm.
That's really all it is. It's just it ends up
Not
being
being
a
able to
defense
handle
mechanism.
rejection.
But man, emotional regulation, that's definitely one of those things in the research we were doing, and we did this topic in the for
Legion.
for the Legion call that we have is like in shameless plug. We do have an open house for the Legion. This perfect time for this commercial break. Um, we do have an open
Yeah.
house this Sunday for the Legion. We actually are going to be doing it live here on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram, just to give people an opportunity to actually take a glimpse behind the scenes, behind the doors of what we actually do as far as the Legion with the community, with the guys in that group, helping people, helping guys work on their masculinity, their money, their purpose and their battle mindset, and
Yeah,
elevate themselves, get the best life possible to become capable men in general,
hmm
and get that community around them and become that. So
for
definitely
sure.
tune in for that. But yeah, and that's one of those things we talked about with um, on that call was emotional regulation
Hmm.
is one of those things that becomes a big problem for a lot of guys when they're raised in a house full of estrogen, we'll say,
Yeah.
because men and women argue differently,
Hmm.
and men can't afford to be as emotional as women. You just can't afford to, because the world does not treat you like they treat women. An emotional man who's out here, who's not in control of himself, who's out here acting reckless, doing reckless things, getting into fights with everybody, arguing with things, getting into situations. Um, this world is going to punish you for being overly
Hmm.
emotional, and it's
Hmm.
one of those things. And that's why in a lot of cases, and they found this with, they've done a lot of studies where they find that if you take two households, well, three households technically, you have the complete family with mom, dad in the house and the kids and everything like that. Then you
Yeah.
have the single mother household and you have a single father household.
Hmm.
When you look behind the doors at the kids and how they move, of course the two parent household does the best, when it comes to education, income level, how the kids are ready to and prepared for life, the lack of the lesser issues that go on in the house
Yeah.
compared to a mother's house. In a lot of cases they found, and like I said, there's no shade, these are just facts, look it up on the internet, you can Google it, that single mother households have a higher risk for kids being homeless, going to jail, dropping out of high school, um, early teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, and a lot of these different things. And a lot of times suicide as well is it's
Hmm.
also numbers that increase in a single mother household. Whereas in a single father household, they're not at the same level as a two parent household, but they're pretty close. Is
Hmm.
the wild thing. They're similar in a lot of different ways. Not every way, but they're very similar in a lot of different ways because of that structure that
Yeah.
comes with a single father household, especially for the boys. I say for the girls too, but we're talking about the guys, especially for the
Yeah.
boys, because there's that figure that if you step cross the line, there will be consequences, and they will be, somebody will drop that hammer on you, and it's coming.
Hmm.
So, these, like I said, the data just shows that when you have that single mother household and you grow up in that state, that you have some disadvantages that are going to come your way. Even in the best of households, there's a possibility of you having some major disadvantages compared to your other people in your community.
Yeah, but it's honestly, it's they're handicapped because they're trying to play two roles automatically.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, as a man, could you imagine trying to raise children, work on your own stability as a person, like mental, like religious, whatever, psychological, having to work multiple jobs because you don't feel like somebody else is being able to support you. You don't have that backup at home, and you're coming in from one or two jobs or working a night shift trying to feed the kids and do the homework and all that stuff. It's like it's a lot to do, man. Whether you're with somebody or not. I think about this all the time. I'm just grateful that I have a wife, and somebody that I can co-parent with, because like them 3 a.m. feeds, or when the kid's just not feeling good and all the diaper change. You
Yeah.
see Bam Bam, man,
Yeah,
it
this
takes
this
4 months to
morning,
change
this
a
morning
diaper.
in our meeting,
Yes,
it's like
like
he's a handful, bro. He's bam bam for sure.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's not even a slight to say that things can go more awry with a single mom than a single dad. It's hard regardless. Being a parent in general is hard.
Yeah,
And everybody wants help,
and you only
but
got
these are
one.
just the things that yeah, talking about, everybody's talking about, oh, you're gonna have twins, shut your mouth. Ain't got time for that. But
No, triplets.
yeah, see, I'm a hang up. But but yeah,
Stop
so
cursing me.
put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. But what would you say for your perspective? Because we spent a good amount of time on mine. As somebody who, just to recap, like you had your mom, you also had your like you said, you like to say that your parents were like two ships in the night. You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh
they
yeah,
kind of crossed paths, but your dad wasn't in your life for the majority of your upbringing, but you did have a stepdad. But you're feeling that as if he was also kind of not the best example. So what would you say as somebody who went through your experience with being raised by predominantly a single mom? What was the conflicts and trouble that you ran into?
So mine was weird. Mine was so yeah, my parents, my mom and my dad, they were never married. They were never really in a relationship. It was more like situationship type deal.
Situationship.
But before that was a thing, there's the '80s situationship. Um,
Hmm.
Probably
Hmm.
some Brian McKnight involved in that situation. Um,
Silly.
Never even listened to him again. Um,
Right.
but so yeah, they were two ships crossing the night. So they got together just long enough to make this wonderful being that you are all blessed to know now. Um, I know, so humble. I know.
This
Um,
experiment.
Definitely broke the mold. He was like, not another one. No more.
Right.
No more. No more of him. The world can only handle one. Um, but yeah, so they were together long enough to separate. But the weird part is my dad was there. I've always known him.
Hmm.
He was there. He was around. Actually, when he was the summer dad. He's the dad
Yeah.
you go see in the summertime. But it was mostly my grandma that was raising me in the summertime. It's like because he worked nights and it really wasn't. It
Yeah.
really wasn't that really. I'll put it this way, and it's funny for me to think about. For a while, I called him Uncle. I called him Uncle. His name.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I don't know why I did, because everybody else was doing it, and I just called him that, which
Hmm.
was kind of. I don't even know if he really noticed it. Um,
Uncle Daddy.
Uncle Daddy, yeah,
Uncle Daddy.
that's a weird one. Y'all
Out
from
in
the
Alabama.
South? Y'all from the South?
Right.
Mississippi.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I see him in the summertime, but it's like, but the rest of the year, he really wasn't present, and I can't really say he was like super present. We never had that relationship where it was like he knew me type deal.
Hmm.
It was like, you might know certain things about me, but you don't really know me. He wasn't somebody I could like call when I was going through my struggles, when I was having problems and anything like that. It wasn't one of those, man, I'm gonna call my dad, I'm gonna get some good advice, he's gonna help me through this type deal. It wasn't really that. We've never had that type of relationship. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, you're cool, maybe we have some fun, da 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 da, but it was never one of those ones that I could really count on and
Hmm.
depend on you to be there in the way I need you to, type
Yeah.
deal. And
Yeah.
and that can sound like a terrible thing to say, but people do the best that they can. You know, so I'm not gonna throw no shade his way. And my
Hmm.
stepdad, it was one of those things I always say. It's kind of like when the new lion takes over the pride, the first thing he does is eat the kids of the old
Right.
lion. And
Right.
for a good portion of my life, the dude was trying to eat me. Taught me a lot of the process. It's like
Right.
definitely made me tough. Definitely made me tough. But I can't say it was. There wasn't a lot of nurturing or guidance in that relationship either. It was one of those things where you're a package deal. Your package deal. You come with your mama. It's like
Yeah.
I want her, so I got to deal with you. It's just
Hmm.
it's is what it is.
Hmm.
Um, and that lasted till I was probably about 10 or 11. So right when I'm hitting that point where it's like you really need that guidance as a boy, you're heading
Hmm.
into that man, puberty's kicking in, all these different things are starting to pop up. I've noticed girls since I was in elementary, so that wasn't even a thing. But
Yeah.
but you're really starting to notice girls now. There wasn't a lot of guidance with that. It's like most of the things I've learned. I had to learn solo. I had to learn my own.
Yeah.
How to deal with women. I learned that by myself. The advice I was getting from summer daddy um, was not the best advice. We'll just put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Had to learn to change the oil in my car. Change the tire, throw a football. How to play football. How to deal with finances. All these things I had to learn um, really on my own because my mom, my mom was there. She was working so much. She was in the army, latchkey kid. So that combination of mom's there, but not really around 100% of the time.
Mhm.
Dad's present, but not present. If I can say that, he's available. He's there's a picture of him, but there's not much else there. And
Mhm.
stepdad really just is making sure you live. Kind of like the
Right.
fences we talk about. Is like it's like, why haven't you ever told me you love me? You eat every day, don't you? Like that. Yeah, yeah. It's more. he,
Which
he made
is
he made sure I didn't die.
right, right. You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you made it and you didn't die.
Right,
Nobody can whoop your ass because I made sure of that because I try to eat you every day.
right. One
So
question that I had, do
mhm.
you feel like, because you said it made you tough, but it was like just not the best circumstance. Do you think it was at all the wrong kind of tough? Because
Hmm.
you're resilient and you it's that like survival tough. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. It's definitely more of a survival tough.
Yeah.
I can't say it's like a I didn't develop like a confidence stuff until I got farther into martial arts, where it was like I'm
Yeah.
tough because I'm confident in my abilities. It's more like I'm tough because I've been through the shit and you can't do anything. If that didn't kill me, you can't kill me. Type deal. It's like
Right.
hard, more like hard to kill.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
got you.
know that I can bash my head through this brick wall and I'll be fine. You might kill you, but I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But
That's a lot.
it wasn't like a confidence like tough
Yeah.
like because I wasn't confident. That's the
Hmm.
thing. That's the kicker. It's like I
Neither
was
was
tough,
I.
but I was
Yeah.
tough, but I was not confident at all. It's like
I
I was actually really insecure if I'm gonna be real about it.
yeah. I
It's like
wasn't tough
I
or
hid that
confident.
in that toughness. Hmm?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying like I wasn't tough or confident. I think when I got to boxing was where I started to really have that confidence and become tough.
Yep.
But that, that wasn't until I had to be 19 or 20. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So that was we like in America we don't really have rites of passage. But to me, that was me trying to initiate a rite of passage because getting into boxing, I felt like I couldn't protect the woman I was dating at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't say it out of her own mouth, but I could feel it based off of our conversation.
Yep.
So putting myself into that ring of like that goes into the conflict resolution and the self defense and the confidence and whatnot and losing the weight. That was a big thing too because I was a bigger kid. So all of that helped me, but I had to find that on my own kind of thing. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it just takes time. But having a male role model, which I had, but having one that can be there on a regular basis is the thing that I think helps instill that quicker and gives you that confidence because a lot of people, when they're getting started in sports or whatever, like usually it's their dad that's helped them like kind of guide them through that. Like my dad did tennis, which is great, but for me, how my personality was back then and now, I would say boxing was the better way to go.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah, man. So it ends up being it ends up making for an interesting journey because it's one of those things like having to the best way I could put it is there were two males in my life, but I
mm,
can't say I had a father.
mm, yeah,
It's like I didn't have that, like I said, that guide to like until later on. Like I said, I started getting father figures later on in certain areas, like I said, in martial arts, and a cousin of mine stepped in and definitely um, had a major impact on me because he kind of took some of those areas where I was lacking and made me straighten up. It wasn't
hmm
even one of those things where it was like you got a choice about this. It's like no, you're the next. I got to get you right. And the way you did the way I'm going to do this is by fucking with you a lot until you get it
hmm
straight. So it's just one of those things. Like so, it's like, is this what it's like? It's like at one point I got off the phone with him. I was like, is this what it's like to have a dad?
hmm
It's like shit, bro.
yeah,
It's like this. I mean, it never hit me before. Like I'd see friends with their dad and stuff like that, and I knew there was something missing, but because I would see like the way the dad got on them and stuff like that, and even would get on me, and I'd be like, I'm not even your kid. I'm like, why are you on me? I'm not your kid.
right.
It's like,
Now that's a good man though.
but it was one of those things where it was like, um, I appreciated it. And like I said, until I really got around, started really dealing with my cousin, having conversations with him, it was one of those things like I said, getting off the phone one day, I was like, is this what it's like to have a dad? It's like, man, he told me you asshole, bro.
Right.
Is on some stuff that I was doing. It's like he took me to task.
hmm
And even when he wasn't doing that, it was like more teaching me lessons through me doing stuff. It wasn't just something he handed it to me. But it was, I was like, is this what it's like? Is this what it's like to be a dad? And I was like, I mean, to have a dad, I was like, this is, I never had, out of the two guys who were involved in, in my life coming up, I never had that experience with either one of them.
Yeah.
So it was brand new to me when it happened. I was like, this is weird. This is strange. It's like, I don't know how to really react to this. It's like, I appreciate this so much. The fact that you're willing to do this. And yeah, so that was, I had a big effect on me when that happened. And I still appreciate him for that. It's like, yeah, definitely shout out to him for that.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that too, because even when I can never recall a time where my dad talked to my friends like that, but they could see him talking to me like that, and I think they got
Mm-hmm.
that residual because they were always like they respected my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to make sure not they anytime they got a chance to interact with him, even if it was just him dropping us off at the mall or a movie or whatever, like he made sure that everybody was safe. I think it was
Yep.
more like just the fact that he was present in our lives. And I can't even say just my life because I think of the way that I grew up. I wanted to collect people. I wanted to collect brothers and sisters.
You are a collector of people.
I am a collect. Yeah, yeah. And
100%.
it's because nobody was trying to collect me. You know what I
Ah,
mean? And
yeah.
so when I made friends,
Were
I
you
was
the
also
last
one of
toy on the
those.
shelf?
I was the broken toy on the shelf.
Oh, broken toy on the shelf.
Yeah,
Man.
I was very much like I was trying to make friends, but I was kind of like had no filter, so they couldn't really take that, and I asked a lot of weird questions. So, and it was like existential shit I was asking at
Yeah.
like 10, 11 years old. So nobody was like, what the hell is wrong with this kid? So
I can
I'm
see
like,
you being that kid that like
where
runs
did
up like,
God
you want
come
to be
from? Like,
friends? You want to be friends?
right,
You want to be my friend? I can
right.
see you being that kid.
Yeah. It was very much like Naruto on the swings type shit. It was like that.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
I would try to collect people and just to have that feeling of being wanted in community type of thing.
Hmm.
So when I didn't get that for a good while, I was like, well shit, I'm gonna just do it solo and I'm gonna just, be me. And when I would collect people, there were always circumstances like they would move or they would go to a different school or whatever, like or kind of like how it is now, where I would have to travel an hour south to get to them, type of thing. Like nobody was ever around.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
blame the other guy. Yeah, I just,
I,
I,
well, it
I
was
just play. I
so
just
like when I
playing.
got to the no, no, I got you. But when I moved to Colorado, I had nobody. I had the only person that I had was my old gym coach. So
Yeah.
shout out to JD. So I had to travel an hour or even more sometimes to get to the people who I actually liked hanging out with.
Hmm.
But yeah, when you don't have people around you, even just to be like some type of buffer, you
Yeah.
might end up wanting to collect people that way. When like you say
Hmm.
I'm always so friendly, it's because it's how I grew up. I feel like I had to do that in order to get people on my side.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the opportunity to figure out what it was like to stand as an individual sometimes.
Hmm.
What is it I feel like a man can also teach you how to stand on your own 2 feet, not rely on so many people, but then you end up being the one that is relied on because you have that strength and stability.
Yeah.
So it was weird. It was definitely weird as a kid trying to figure out the best way to communicate and socialize and all that stuff, and when you're living like that.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Um, I was just thinking of the main thing, like, and like I said, the biggest thing is there's so many guys that are not having this conversation. Don't have other guys to be like, hey, bro, it's like I struggled. It's I stress. Like I grew up with my mom raised me for a good chunk of my life, and it was a struggle. It's like, and there's a lot of things that a lot of guys don't admit what they don't know. It's like I've told plenty of people. It's like, hey, you know how long it took me to figure out what it meant to be a man? I'm still figuring that out. I'm 36. I'm still figuring out what it means to
Yeah.
be a man. Still
Yeah.
to this day. Because it took so long for me to find examples of like, oh, that's what it's supposed to, that's what, okay, that's what it's supposed to look. That's what it could look like. Maybe that's what it's supposed to look like. Gotcha. Okay. I'm seeing this now. It's like, I'm starting to see, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm tracking. I'm tracking
Yeah.
now. But for the longest time, I didn't have that. So it's like, it's like trying to It's like you get a big one of those big giant Lego creator sets, and there's no
Hmm.
picture on the box, and there's no
Oh shit.
instructions.
Oh god.
So you don't
Just
know.
blocks and colors.
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah, just blocks and
Yeah.
pieces. It's like, so you got this big giant set. It's like, oh, it's 2,000 pieces, but you don't know if you're building the Death Star or like a Formula One car. You know what I mean? And you're just having to try and like
Yeah.
just fit
Yeah. That
these
would be
pieces
hella
together. You
frustrating.
you end up looking like that one kid that's
Yeah.
like trying to bang that square block into the round hole. It's just like it'll fit. You
Yeah.
end up looking like that
Yeah.
kid, man.
It'll
It's
fit.
like it can be
Yeah.
a struggle, bro. It could be a struggle, and it's one of those things that you know, my mom did the
Yeah.
best she could, with the circumstances she found herself in, and she was the one who really, and I'm grateful for, so grateful for, because she was the one who actually made the call to my cousin, that was like, "Hey, I need your help." Is like,
Mm,
because I was at a certain
mm,
point, I was out of control, and she was just like, I can't do anything with him.
mhm.
It's like I I don't know what to do, and I think she knew she was over her head, in it, because she was like, I have no idea how to help him in this next stage that he's trying to
Yeah.
get to, and he's bashing
Mhm.
his head against this wall trying to figure it out, and I see he's not, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that she knew enough to
Yeah.
know that she knew enough to know that it wasn't working the way I was doing it.
Right.
And she was like, "Hey, I
Yeah.
need your help. I need you to step in and
Mm.
provide some guidance in this scenario." And I'm super appreciative for that, because she knew that she couldn't do it.
I think the I would and like we said, this is not to bash single moms at all. This is just what it looks like when you don't have the other side. So with my
Well, maybe
mom,
bashing a few single moms. I'm
yeah,
joking.
not mine though.
I'm just
Mine's great.
I just
But,
I just play. I,
but
I don't think he got the
my
joke I was putting down anyway.
my my mom, she like she said, she tried to raise men,
Hmm.
and so the one thing that she was really, really this I think this saved my life honestly. It's she was really big on work ethic. You do what
Yeah.
you say you're going to do. You work hard. You have a goal, that type of stuff. And she was so go go go. I didn't have a chance to sit in some of my more darker emotions. Let's say. So when I would lose a job or I would break up with a girl, and I would just move on to the next thing. I didn't necessarily know how to process it, but I had to keep moving because
Hmm.
I never up until recently in the last like 3 years, I never didn't have a job for more than I would say 6 months was the cap, and that was the most recent within the past like 3 years. Before that, I was never out of work for more than like 2 weeks total. I was always out there. Like I would lose a job. Okay, you feel sad for a day. You go out there. You start putting in more applications because one, your bills don't stop.
Yep.
You need to make sure that you're being able to provide, if not for a family, for yourself. So she was real big on work ethic, have a goal that you're always trying to get to. I remember during her retirement party when she stopped working as a civilian for the government and civil service, they listed out all her accomplishments, and I just remember feeling like, "Fuck, I got some work ahead of me,"
Yeah.
because she had done a lot of good work for the country, even just as a civilian, as a civil servant. To the
Hmm.
point where they were able to give her a little piece of. She would help facilitate like buying pieces for helicopters for the military for like rescue missions
Hmm.
and shit like that. So they gave her a piece of one of the helicopters that she helped develop or she helped acquire the pieces for and all that stuff. And I was like, damn, like I know because it was like a plaque and had a bunch of names signed on it. And I'm like, damn, she helped a lot of people. Yeah, even in the military and stuff like that. So like if I'm going to be of any good to this world, I have to be of service one way or another, whether it was doing this or just being really good at my job. So, and helping people, outside of that and all that kind of stuff. So, but she also, I like to say that I had my mom's mind and my dad's heart because she was real cerebral about making sure that, okay, nobody's going to take advantage of me. Nobody can take away my accomplishments. Nobody can undercut me for whatever reason. And that served me a lot because there were times where I would be working jobs and maybe not doing the best. Somebody would make a slick ass comment. Next thing you know, I'm out working that person within 2 weeks. It's like, no, you don't get to say how I operate in any form or fashion. In
Hmm.
that self-sufficiency, is key for a lot of men. Some men don't get that because they can
Yeah.
get to a point where they're dating a woman, they were raised by a single mom, and they look at their spouse or their partner or whoever they're talking to as a mom, and you want them to do
Oh,
all
the
that stuff
mama
for
boys.
you.
The
Yeah, and I'm
mama
like, nah,
boys.
bro, that's not how this goes. You know what I mean? So my mom
Oh
never
man.
raised me to be dependent on any other woman, any other person in
Mhm.
general. You know what I mean? So that's why sometimes I think people look at me where it's like, you don't need anything. It's like, no, I still need people, but I don't rely on them. I don't I
Mhm.
don't I don't place too much stock in somebody outside of myself. That independence
Yeah.
was really big in my family. And
Mhm.
maybe it was because of, having multiple single moms in my family, because none of my aunts are currently married and all that kind of stuff, but they did the best that they could. But all of them are very self-sufficient. I can tell you that much.
Mhm. For sure. Man, so yeah, we talked a bit about, kind of how it can look, even though it's a challenge, how it looks when you have that mom that, maybe is that supportive, can support in certain ways where she may not be able to teach you how to be a man, but is still supportive. We're gonna get
Yeah.
into next, how does it look when it goes wrong though? When you don't when is when you have when you don't have our
Yeah.
moms, and maybe you had
Yeah.
you didn't have the pick of the litter, we'll say, in the house, and how it can turn into mama boys, or it can turn into, um, turn men to be more violent individuals because of certain ways that they're brought up, because of the combativeness of a female figure that, was raising them up in the process, maybe taking out some of the anger out on the kids that, was supposed to be, that couldn't be directed at maybe the man that wasn't in the household. So we're going to dig into that
Yeah.
next, right after this commercial break, right now. Hey guys, quick interruption to the episode. Let me tell you about the 8 Inner Gates, our personal growth and self-mastery course that's been showing men just like you how to get unstuck and take their life, relationships, career, or even business to the next level. The same principles that have helped us to find purpose, overcome depression, command respect, dominate in our careers, and become honorable men, we're now sharing with our brothers. So if you want more of this life, you know you're capable of achieving more of this life, and you're tired of just drifting through it, click down in the description of the episode or in the pinned comment and gain access to the first 2 lessons in the course, completely free on us. Click now and begin unlocking the gates blocking your success. And we are back. Yeah,
Hmm.
man. So how does it look when it goes wrong? We hear, unfortunately, there are a lot of horror stories out there where you hear um, guys who've been in abusive situations in single mother homes, where it's one of those things where, because whatever happened with the relationship between the mother and the father, and we're going to definitely get into the father's role in this whole thing. We touched on it a little bit, but we're going to definitely dig into that. But when that relationship doesn't go right, or how the mother thinks it should, a
Yeah.
lot of times that son, can be used as a weapon, or have that anger, that rage, redirected at in his direction, when it can't be
Mhm.
directed at, the
Oh,
father, the
for
baby father,
sure.
whatever it may be, and how that
Yeah.
can play out in some ways, and how damaging that can be to a lot of guys. Because I didn't experience that. My mom actually did kind of push me towards um, my dad, but I definitely have seen it where it's the other way around, where I've, been not just around guys who had their dads. That was actually a rare thing. Most of
Mhm.
the guys I grew up with didn't have a mom and a dad in the household.
Mhm.
So it's like, I have met some very angry mothers. It's just to where it's like, ooh, you are very bitter, and I see the way you talk to him, and I hear the way you talk to me, and it's
Mhm.
very obviously that, you're directing that anger towards that guy. And I'm like, if you're saying this in front of me, I can imagine what you're saying when I'm not around, to this dude. And it can definitely neuter some guys. It can there's usually either one or two ways. Either the guy gets neutered, or he just ends up being that intimidator, that interrogator, and it rages out and ends up trying to take his anger out on the world, because he can't turn it back at his mom in most
Yeah.
cases. So he's
Yeah.
going to take it out. That's the guy that's the bully a lot of times, that is picking on people, is the guy out trying to start fights, trying to prove himself because he gets neutered at home in a lot of
Mm.
ways. It's like that can be a really dangerous dude, the neutered guy or the guy that's out here trying to prove himself to the world because he's getting put down back at the house.
Yeah, for sure. It's when you were trying to explain it before the break. The first thing that came to mind was these are the men that don't get to be men.
Mm,
They just stay grown ass boys because they don't learn that conflict resolution. They don't know what it's like to be able to defend yourself, not with your fist, but with your argument, and stay calm and collected throughout that whole process.
hmm
They do end up lashing out, and honestly, this was something that came up in conversation just online, maybe like a year ago is when I heard it. Boys who are raised by single women end up taking out their anger on other women because they're trying to take some of that power back. They don't really
hmm
learn the proper steps in, like I said, conflict resolution and some other stuff, but they end up mistreating the women in their lives because they really didn't have a good relationship with their moms.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
So
get a
if
picture
you
of that.
if you were able to have a man in your life, he would teach you, hey, you don't talk to women this way. You talk to him a certain way, unless that man was also talking to him that way. So then he just picks that up.
Yeah.
But if there's nobody in there to help regulate what is the correct way to speak to women, they'll end up being reckless. If let's put it this way, these same bitter mothers,
hmm
they are talking crazy to their kids, even if it's not to them directly, they hear it because when you're in the house, you hear everything.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just on the phone talking to friends and dissing the baby daddy or whatever. I mean, I will be honest, there were times where I heard my mom maybe not talking the best about my dad, and it upset me. So
hmm
then they may go and internalize that and end up taking it out on women because they feel like all women think all men ain't shit, which includes you and includes your dad. So you may um, end up being a little bit more aggressive because if you aren't able to maintain a stable relationship with a woman, let's say you get her pregnant, and then you're automatically thinking about all the stuff that's finna go wrong. Oh,
hmm
she wasn't the love of my life. I didn't want to get married to her. This was just a one night stand, whatever. Now I'm about to be going through child support court. Or now I'm going to be having to fight to see my kid and all this other stuff. So you automatically kind of don't treat them well from the beginning. And even though it takes two to tango, you are just as liable as the woman who ends up having this kid because you didn't go through the healing that was necessary to make sure that you weren't going to be doing the same thing to them.
hmm
The way, what is it, projecting, you're projecting onto these other women thinking that, oh, I grew up in this situation, now this is all I'm going to know, because you ended up sleeping with somebody who you didn't see with the long term, you didn't have a long-term vision with. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
This is what I've seen in my experience as well, though.
I heard someone say that women can destroy a world with their words, men destroy the world with their actions, and it plays out so heavy, just like what you were saying, that a woman's words, a mother,
Mhm.
a sister, an aunt, or whatever like that, can destroy a man's world, and he turns around and goes out there and destroys his world and his with his actions.
Yeah,
It may be, like say you get a guy gets an argument with his mom. She tells him he ain't shit. You're just like your daddy. Da 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 da. Next, he goes out here and he's, out here um, feeling actually hurt, feeling damaged by this. But that damage turns into anger. It festers and turns into anger. And he goes out here and gets into a fight and ends up really hurting somebody, doing some real damage. Or out here,
yeah,
gets, hey man, let's go rob this liquor store. Let's go do this. Let's go get drunk. And ends up wrapping your car around your car around a pole,
true.
or
Yeah,
try, or end up getting caught up in a robbery or some stupid stuff that you shouldn't have been involved in the first place, because you had that was the outlet for that anger. That anger was
right.
coming out. So you ended up destroying somebody else's world and your world because of some words that tried to destroy yours.
Also, with their actions, they end up beating women straight up because they were never taught to, one, not put your hands on a woman,
Mhm.
and God forbid, I mean, because I know there's situations where women put their hands on men.
Or taught to
I,
put their hands on women. A lot of guys will sit there and have seen abuse in the house,
yeah,
and mom stays with that guy.
that is also true. Yeah,
It's like,
I remember
or
talking.
every guy that the mom has been with, ends up getting handsy, and that's just, it's
Yeah,
like, oh, that's how I resolve conflict. When she gets mouthy, I smack her in the mouth, and it handles
Right.
the problem.
Yeah.
You know.
So there was a guy that I met and talked to earlier this year, or it was towards the end of last year, honestly,
Mhm.
where we had a conversation where that's what happened to him, where his mom was in such an abusive relationship. He had basically seen her as weak because she never
Mm.
like defended herself or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful that I never had to see that. But what he said was, this person was in a failing marriage,
Hmm.
like real time. It had been failing since jump, but it had been decades at this point.
Yeah.
So he was saying that just through our conversation, it wasn't even like a therapy session, but I think he came to the realization that he is staying with this woman who is being abusive to him and has been since they had children, because he watched his mom stay in a relationship where she was being abused, and that was his version of being strong, was just staying there despite what was going on, because he was trying to raise his kids and all this stuff. And she had straight up tried to leave the state and let him know that, hey, me and the kids are going this way, you do what you want. And he was
Hmm.
like, well, I'm gonna go raise my kids and I'm gonna move with y'all. So, and just that, like, she had left you 30 years ago, my guy, and you're still here
Yep.
taking decades of abuse just because you're trying to raise your children, to the point where, out of his own mouth, Travis, his children don't respect him.
Mm.
So do you see the cycle of if you're not able to address these issues in yourself while you're younger, or at least while you have a chance to, you will fall into the same trap because it's what you're used to. Now your whole family doesn't respect you when all you're trying to do is be a good man and be a good father. They don't want that from you
Hmm.
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But now you're stuck here and his kids are grown now. I'm like, yo, leave. You now have the perfect time to leave. But I don't think he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is what he knows.
Hmm.
So this man who is desperate for love and attention and some type of being cherished, like every man wants, yeah, I think he's earned it, but he's not getting that from the people that are in his life currently. So starting over doesn't feel like an option for him. But you do end up picking up these traits of your parents, whether they were the ones being abusive or they were the ones being abused. Whatever, subconsciously, you will end up walking the same path one way or another, because you feel like that's the devil, that's comfort. And
Yeah.
that does not feel comfortable from the outside. Some people don't have the awareness to be able to go back and fix those things, or the even the money or tools or resources to do so, which is another reason why we're here. We're trying to, do as much as we can to be able to help mitigate that, no matter what stage of the game you're at. But it's hard to fucking watch, bro. It's hard to watch a man feel like he is a dead man walking,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah. A lot of guys spend their life trying to resolve or fix issues that had nothing to do with them.
Hmm.
It's like what his mom went through, is as traumatic as it was for him. He didn't go through it. It wasn't his thing. It wasn't his shit.
Yeah.
We can spend a huge chunk of our life trying to resolve and fix issues that either had nothing to do with us or that in the past.
Yeah,
Is like,
for
and
sure.
we can complicate our lives and trying to explain why at the end of the day. Is like,
Hmm.
but yeah, man, it can definitely be devastating for in those situations where you see stuff go wrong, whether there be abuse in there, whether it's the mom getting abused, and you're actively seeing this thing, and it definitely imprints, it definitely sticks with you as you grow up, seeing that kind of stuff. Um,
Hmm.
or you're the one, taking on that burden of getting, you're the
The
punching
receiver.
bag.
Yeah.
You're the
Yeah.
punching bag because you're frustrated with life or the way things turned out for you and the choices you made. You're going to take that out on me. Is like when the son didn't choose to be there. Is that
Hmm.
you made a decision that brought him here. Is that he has nothing to do with your pain and your suffering and all the things that you did. You made the choice to put yourself in a situation, and now you want to take it out on him,
Yeah.
and not realizing that you're causing a chain reaction that's going to happen probably for the next 3 generations if he doesn't fix it.
Hmm.
If you don't fix your shit. And this is where, it comes into mind where we see these guys who for instance, like the guy you're talking to,
Yeah.
if he has a son that watches this happen, that son is going to have an issue because of what he's seeing happen with right now. Not having a father he respects.
Mhm.
Seeing the things that are going on, and seeing how women can treat men, and you don't have to be treated with respect, and either they're going to move that way or take a very extreme correction on that thing. It's
Mhm.
like things that happen, if we don't correct it, can follow us for generations.
Yeah.
And I've seen it with my dad and my stepdad, the result of stuff that happened before I was even thought about. Is like, so all of that stuff led to here right now.
Mhm.
And even stuff with my mom, stuff that she went through as a kid, stuff that she went through as a young adult, stuff, her relationship with her mom, who was a single mom, and all these different things like that, and her trying to fight against that and ending up in situations that uh, I wouldn't say were just as bad, but weren't the best either.
Yeah.
It's like not making the best choices because you didn't want to go down that same road as your mom. So you stick in situations that you shouldn't stick into. You let things slide that it's like you probably shouldn't let
Yeah.
that slide. Um,
Yeah.
and still kind of end up in a situation where you still end up on the other end being a single mom at a certain point. It's like
Yeah.
that's gotta be rough, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, but being there to watch this thing and watch it play out and to have to live in that whole thing, I'm just like, it can definitely lead to a lot of it can lead to a lot of damage. But it's one of those things that we have to, even if we had these experiences where it's like you had a single mom that maybe was trying to do her best, and these different things like that, or you had a situation where your mom was not the best person in the
Yeah.
world, and maybe more like an enemy in your house than somebody who's supposed to be helping you through life.
Yeah.
Regardless of those situations, we still have to deal with our shit in those situations. You can't deal with other people's. You can understand it, you can learn
Mhm.
about it, you can come
You can
to
acknowledge
forgive,
it.
you can acknowledge it, you
Yeah.
can come to forgive it, you can do all that stuff, but you can't fix it for them.
Yeah.
You can't fix somebody else's life. All you
Yeah.
can do is fix your shit. The stuff you experienced in these situations that you took out of it, that you're dragging with you, the trauma you have, the scars, the bruises, the beatings, the conversations, the pain you experienced, the terrible things that were said to you, the terrible things that were done to you. That's your shit. What happened to you is yours.
Yeah.
Don't leave it for someone else to deal with. Don't leave it for someone else to try and clean up. Don't leave it for your son to have to try and clean up after you're not around. It happens to him, then it happens to your grandson, and your grandson's going through the same shit that you went through because you didn't handle your business.
And
Because
that's the thing, man. Oh,
mm-hmm.
sorry. Go ahead. Do
Because
it. Finish. Finish up.
it falls on us. It
Yeah.
falls on us. It's like, as crazy as this life can be, and the shit that can happen to us can be wild. Believe me, it can be wild. I've had some experiences that I was like, I wouldn't wish on anybody. It's like, but at the same time, if I can't just run around here and play the victim.
Right.
It's like I'm not. I refuse. It's like I can be victimized, but I'm never going to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different
Mm-hmm.
things. I can be a
Yeah.
target. Yes. I can be a punching bag. Yes. I can be all of these things. I can have somebody do some shit to me that's atrocious, but I refuse to be a victim in this. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to walk around and say that I am this way because of these things.
Yeah.
No, I am this way despite these things.
Well said. Perfect example is I did meet his son, one of his sons. They're about my age. This was an older gentleman, but I think his youngest son is like 28, something like that.
Hmm.
I was able to see a little bit of how that was playing out in the next generation because he was saying that his son he got a woman pregnant. They never got married or not currently married, but her her family upbringing, like we said before, you need to vet not only the woman that you're trying to date, but her family as well to kind of see what you're going to be getting yourself into.
Yeah.
She grew up in a more or less single, like parents were split up, single mom household kind of thing. But she has normalized it. She's like, oh, well, I mean, if that's how it is, then that's cool. Then I can just run it this way instead of
Mm.
trying to kind of have
Fix
that
it.
cohesive unit type of thing. And
Yeah.
I think he submits to her because he wants to make sure that he can stay in his daughter's life one way or another. Because they have
Like
at
his
least
dad.
one child. Yeah, yeah, for real. You know what I'm saying? So I think the older son, he was upset the fact that he had kids and that he had to kind of jump into that responsibility, while the other one submitted to the woman and kind of her desires, because he was like, I don't care what happens to me, I need to be in my daughter's life, which is
Hmm.
admirable. But it is, I in my heart, I feel like it is the wrong way to approach it.
Hmm.
Try to be the family first. If something breaks up in the midst of that, fine. I mean, divorce rates are 55% in this country. Shit's gonna
Yeah.
happen, but you don't start off that way. My
Hmm.
parents started off that way, I was old enough to realize that there was love there at one point, but for whatever
Hmm.
reason, it's not here anymore. So this is how things are. Fine, but there's a more amicable way of going about things. Um, and just like you said, realizing that whatever you go through, it is your job to make sure that it stops with you.
Hmm.
I look at my kid every day, like and I can't wait to teach him all of the beautiful truths that I've learned throughout my time in life. But
Hmm.
I'm not gonna hide some of the more fucked up parts either.
Yeah.
I want to be able to teach him, like, hey man, this is how great things can be, and this is how not so great things can be. But leading with the fact that, like, I'm doing the best that I can to be your dad and give you all the knowledge, and your mom is doing the best that she can as well. And I got big plans for my family, but if
Yeah.
for God forbid anything happens, there will never not be a time where he cannot call on me, because I was
Yeah.
always able to call on my dad. My dad didn't have that. At least I was able to get that much. And that's the good things about my dad I'm able to pass down. And the things
Hmm.
that maybe he wasn't the best at, it's just realizing that he was human. Our parents are human. They're not going to make the
Yeah.
best decisions all the time for themselves or for us. But
Hmm.
understanding that awareness of what went right and what went wrong with you, it's not even necessarily a right and wrong. It's just the shit that happens. You need to be able to navigate that with a sense of clarity and calm and patience, to be like, all right, this is the way shit shook out. It's not ideal, but this is how I can fix it for the next generation, and how they can fix it for their next generation, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You have to take accountability no matter where you are in the game.
For sure, man. For sure. And while you're teaching them all the best things and all the good things, I'll be taking them to underground fights, and fight club, and kumites, and all that good fun stuff. and
This is why we
we'll,
have the home
and,
gym, so we
and
can
we'll
supervise
we'll have
you
a
while you're
we'll have a
him.
we'll have a fantastic. You can't be around all the time. Your wife already asked me to babysit, so it's too
Sure, I
late now.
can.
It's too late. It's too late now. If you ever put a tracker on him, it's like, why is he in Thailand? And that's it's like, because that's where the kumite is being held this year. That's where the
Right.
kumite is being held. It's like
It'll be a
he's
whole
he's,
taken
partic-
situation.
he's participating in the baby kumite.
Ugh, terrible. I
Well,
might not get
well,
that.
your wife will be pissed. We'll get back home. I'll be like, "Hey, we won! What? We won!" So you'll be
I'm
like,
like, oh, that's great. See me outside.
he won, right? He won. Yeah, he won, man. You didn't get touched. He said we did a good job. Now your wife might try and kill me, but you'll be like, at least we got the belt. At least we got the.
All
We
right.
came home with the belt.
We got the dub, but see me outside. So
But yeah, man,
to kind of, I guess to kind of wrap up, what would you
start to land
say?
this plane.
Yeah, start to land this of many
Boeing,
planes.
this Boeing 747 is
Right.
on fire,
I
spewing
hope it's not
gas.
a Boeing. Jesus Christ. What
Uh,
advice would you give to what? Oh, this is something that we didn't do last time we talked about this. If you could give advice to single moms, what would it
ooh,
be? Because I feel like mothers in general, whether you're single, whatever, maybe if you're in a polyamorous relationship, whatever, everybody needs advice from both sexes. I've taken plenty of advice from women and men. So if you could
mhm.
give advice to single moms, what would it be? In regards to trying to raise a son or a daughter, just a child, period. What advice would you give from a man,
Hmm.
from an honorable man? Let's put it that way, not just any man, an honorable man.
Hmm. Um,
I know you'd like that.
I
You
would
know?
tell them to, if you cannot have your son in, if you cannot have your son's father in his life for whatever reason,
Mhm.
maybe he was abusive and that's the reason the relationship ends, or whatever whatever reason it, or excuse, because there's a lot of excuses
Hmm.
as to why.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
get your son around some solid men as early as you possibly can. And it doesn't have to be some dude that you're dating.
Hmm.
I'm not saying go out and go in and hook a man and bring him on in the house and do all that kind of stuff, because that's gonna be more
Yeah.
damaging. I told you my story is like you might find your son trying to get somebody's trying to eat your son every day. It's not fun either.
Right.
Um, but
Right.
try and get your son around
Yeah.
a solid group of guys, or a solid male figure, as soon as possible. The sooner you do it, the better. To be honest, because then
Yeah.
you kind of,
Yeah.
the odds of him growing up and not knowing what it means to be a man, what it looks like to be a man, what it means to how to move like a man, that dramatically goes down when he's learning through almost like osmosis, when he's learning just by being around him. The things we do, how we talk, how we command respect, how we give respect,
Yeah.
how we, um, you know, resolve conflict, how we, how we handle situations if we have to get into conflicts, how we deal with women, how what
Hmm.
shit we don't take from women, how we respect ourselves. He starts to pick up these things just by being around guys like that. That's why a big thing with the fathers is most of it's just kids watching. I watch how Bam Bam watches you. Is like the dude is locked in a lot of the time. I'll be there and I'm like, he'd be like, yeah, 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 whatever. Boom, dad. He's
Yeah.
locked in,
Yeah.
and even the way he looks, even the way he locks in on me, I'm like, oh, I gotta act right. Like I said the other day, like, man, I probably gotta clean up my language around this
Yeah.
kid, because he's watching hard.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It's
And
like,
that's it's scary. It's scary as a
mhm,
dad, because when I was teaching martial arts part time last year, it's not just your kids; it's every
mhm,
kid, bro. It's from every age group. Other men are watching you when you engage with your child or your other children and stuff like that. Because
mhm,
I was changing Bam Bam's diaper in a church bathroom one time, and this old black man was, he was just happy to see that there was another man trying to be a dad. You know
mhm.
what I mean? So he was like over there smiling. I'm like, sir, I'm literally ass and diaper in hand. Like, can you not? This is not a Hallmark moment, but I get it. You know what I
It's like,
mean? But
warms my heart seeing your hands covered in baby.
right, right. But I get it. You
That's
know what I'm
funny.
saying? So, but to
It's probably
see,
rare. He probably doesn't see it. It's probably super
oh, for
rare. So
sure,
he's like, oh man. He's like, where's my phone? Where's my
right,
Kodak moment?
right. You know what I mean?
I
But
might not
I
ever see
mean,
this again. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
children
Mhm.
in general, coaches, I would say for sure, if you can get your
Yeah.
kid in a sport, with a male coach,
I
that
highly suggest martial
sometimes
arts.
that
Highly
yeah,
suggest martial arts.
for sure.
Highly,
Sometimes they will
highly.
take
That would be my
not the
first choice.
place. Yeah, they
Hmm.
wouldn't take the place of the father, but they're a damn good example of discipline and being able to be an upstanding member of the community
Hmm.
if they're a good coach.
Yeah.
Um, it
Yeah. What would,
doesn't.
what would be yours?
Oh, sorry.
What would
Did
be
you have any
yours?
other ones?
Um. So yeah, that would be the first one. Um. Don't think that you can be a dad. Dads aren't replaceable.
For sure.
Dads aren't. I've over the last probably 10 years, there's this like, there's this influx of women that say I'm mom and dad. No, the fuck you're not. You're
Hmm.
mom. You can never be dad. I don't care what kind of sex change you have.
Ain't gonna like
you,
that one.
yeah.
Ain't gonna like that
You cannot be dad. You cannot be
one.
dad. You're always gonna be mom. You cannot take the place of dad. Don't try to.
Mhm.
Don't think that you're dad, because all you're gonna do is figure out later on down the line that you came up short.
You're gonna blame yourself, and you're gonna put extra pressure that did not need to be there in
Hmm.
order to be like, oh well, if one of my children didn't end up the way I thought they should, shit,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I didn't end up the way my parents thought I would. I'm
Hmm.
not doing bad, but I mean, it was touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
But you're going to put extra pressure on yourself because you're going to be like, what didn't I do right? And it's not about what you didn't do. It's about the other influences that are required to
Yeah.
raise children. It's not about a one person. It's not a one person job to raise anybody, to do
Yep.
anything. If you go to a job and you have to talk to the HR people, you have to talk to the trainers, you have to talk to
Hey,
other
we
talk to
lost you for
people
a
who
sec.
might be trying to shadow you.
We lost you for a sec.
Hear me now?
Yeah. We lost you about
Okay,
10 seconds ago.
you good now?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, if you're my example was going to be if you're going to a job, you're a
Mm-hmm.
new hiree on whatever job, you have to talk to you have to talk to HR, the trainers, your manager, other associates. It does not. They don't give you to one person and say teach them how to do this whole entire process. You're gonna have to go through multiple people. So why do you think raising a child is any different?
Yeah.
Whether it's your mother, grandparents, sisters, cousins, everybody, the whole family has to be involved in raising this child.
Community.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Takes a
the
village.
same. Yeah, it's the community. It's the community aspect. It's the same. So don't think you can do it by yourself at any point. You know what I mean? If all you have is a family full of women, like I did, fine. You know what I'm saying? I was one of four men until my granddad died. It was down to three. Me, my brother, and my cousin. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
getting those numbers up. But when you're raised around a bunch of women, things are going to be different than when you
Yeah.
have any type of male influence in your life. You know, now there's nothing bad about it necessarily, but just understand the context is different of life between
Yeah.
men and women. So don't think that you have to do it all, because if you have a good community or you can build a good community, that will help sublimate or substitute some of that. But the dad is always going to be somebody that the kid is looking for.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I mean?
and
It's never not
and if
going to
he's
be
not around, he's gonna be looking for him in every guy that he meets. It's like
exactly.
because I could tell you that from to be honest, to be real, from personal experiences. A lot of the relationships I've had with older guys, I could definitely see that I was looking for a father figure in them because I didn't have that. So it was like, so when things didn't go well, or they didn't stay around or anything like that happened, it definitely was devastating because I was looking for that. I was looking for that, but they weren't. That wasn't their job. So I don't blame them for any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oop, give me one sec here. My camera just went
Your
out.
phone's doing the thing again.
No, yeah. Phone is
I
doing the
got you.
thing. But yeah, so it wasn't their job, but I say that to the moms to don't try and be the dad. Don't think that you're a dad because then you cancel out the first rule.
Yeah.
It's like if you think that you're the dad or that you can be him, then you're not going to do the things you need to do to get your son in the circles that he needs to be in
Yeah.
to become that man that he needs to be. You're not
100%.
going to reach out and find that community, put him into sports, do the due diligence to find a good martial arts school to put him into, to get him around some positive male influences in your family or in your community or different things like that. If you think that all he needs is me, no, you're not right. Like you said, it takes more than just two.
Yeah.
There's no situation in unless you're on an island and it's just you and your husband or you and your whoever, and it's just
Yeah.
you two. There's no situation where it's just two people raising any kid.
Right.
Like you said, you got school, you got family members, you got people in the community, you got all these people who are going to react to take. That's why they say it takes a village.
Hmm.
So don't think you have to be the end all be all, because honestly, there's going to be some things that son just can't come and talk to you about. There's plenty that I didn't talk that my
Yeah.
mom didn't know until I was in my 30s that I told her. She was like, "Oh," I was like, "You had no idea about that because I couldn't bring that to you." Is like I couldn't bring that stuff to you. It's like if I
Yeah.
if I had a male,
Yeah.
a dad or somebody in my life, I felt like I could have brought that to him, but I can't bring that to you. There's certain things that a guy's just not going to talk to his mom about and shouldn't
Hmm.
talk to his mom about. You know.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
What about you? What would
For
be your
me,
advice to
well,
the
yeah,
to the single mamas, baby mamas, mama mamas?
the community piece was right. The community piece was the biggest piece, man. But because I think that solves a lot of issues. Personally,
Hmm.
never, never listen to me when I say this, please. Never talk shit. I know it is. I'm elevated because I guess never talk shit. I don't care what he did. Don't talk shit about your child's father in front of them.
Mm.
You will either drive that child towards them or further away. And there are bigger holes that are developed in their psyche because
Mm.
this person is one, they're already not around. So if they're not around and you talking shit, you're basically bringing
Can't
a
fight back.
ghost in the house. They can't fight
Mm.
back, and you're bringing a ghost in the house. They hear all
Mm.
this stuff about a person that they've either never met or they don't have a real good understanding of, perspective of,
Or it doesn't actually exist.
and doesn't actually exist. You know
Mm.
what I mean? It's
This
I
villain you made up in your head that now you're telling this kid about.
had said that in the Legion call where you were like, you can the parent, well, whatever parent, dad or mom, talk shit about the other parent that's not there, and then when they finally meet that person, they're gonna have a different view of the one that was talking shit because, oh, you've been lying to me this whole time.
Mm. You
You
just lost
you
all
you
trust.
you were you were lost. Yeah, you were jaded or you were bitter or you were slighted. So then now you're trying to get me on your side. But here's the kicker. All you've done is complain about this other person, which doesn't bring me any closer to you either.
Mm-hmm.
You're shooting yourself in the foot twice
Yep.
because you're talking shit about somebody who is not around, but then all the kid hears you do is complain. So why would the kid want to be around somebody who's only complaining? Maybe they
See,
even pick up that psychological trait of, well, everything is everybody else's fault. I can never do anything wrong. Well, that's
what was
also
me?
not good because you're
Yep.
not teaching the kid about accountability. You're going through the, oh, woe is me. So
Mm-hmm.
we just need to go ahead and do the four things again for Celestine prophecies, but
Maybe we'll do it
just to
live.
refresh
Maybe
it.
we'll do a live about it
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so you're doing yourself a disservice. And honestly, if you could find way, I'm not saying blow smoke up their ass, but if you could find a way to find any positive trait about that person who's not there, that's a better look for you than talking shit about them. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, oh, my mom taught me or my dad taught me how to find the good in people despite what they've done to me. Because
Mm-hmm.
you are just a reflection of your environment and the people that are around you. So give yourself some grace and understand that, okay, if you have a bad baby daddy or whatever the case may be, okay, you made a mistake. Maybe you didn't pick the best person to procreate with. Now you have this child. It's too late to go back. Just try to
Mm-hmm.
be a better person from that point on is better than trying to blame the absent party for what you feel like is your plight in life. Because there are people who are married and still feel that way. Oh, your daddy ain't shit, blah blah, and being abusive and all that shit. Like I said, with the person I was talking about earlier, where he's in an abusive relationship with a woman, and now his kids don't respect him. That had to have come from hearing the mom do all that and seeing the dad not defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, a woman destroys with her words, a man destroys with her actions. Sometimes destroying your world with your actions is not doing anything at all to
Yep.
defend yourself. So, yeah, that's what I would say is try to have a community and don't talk shit. If you're gonna do it away from the kid. Just don't talk shit
Facts.
because it's you don't know how that's gonna affect them, but
Yeah.
it's better to just be the bigger person at the end of the day.
Mama said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say shit.
Hmm. Don't talk shit. Just don't talk shit.
Yeah, man, this has been a good one. I think it was a much needed conversation because we talk a lot about we've had the conversation about what it's like not having a father in the household. We touched a bit on this, but a lot of people don't really talk about like the trials you face and the pitfalls we face being in a household where it's like it's the single mom, the divorcee, the baby mama, whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it. It's like
yeah,
some of the struggles that go through that. Even in the best case scenario, man, there can be definitely struggles.
yeah,
That aren't talked about. It's just like, oh, we just take it on and say, hey, I got this problem, and don't mention it. Don't say that I'm struggling with this, figuring out what it's like to be a man because I never saw it. All these different things like that. A lot of guys just suffer in silence, and maybe they figured it out, but they never bring it back up again. They're like, hey, man, it's what I went through. It's like, dude, help somebody else not go through that, It's like that's all that
Yeah.
we're trying to
Help
do
them avoid that
in this
altogether.
scenario is just like helping guys who are going through this and not to like we talk about not to continue the cycle,
Right.
to skip the stitches if possible, for the
Yeah.
next generation and the generation after that, because like I said, there can be 3 lines of men following you that are going through this, that go through the same shit, that have the same problems or worse than you had because you didn't do your job to figure out what your issues are, to address, to figure out your issues are, to actually take a look at them, to figure out what you need to do to fix it, and actually fix it,
100%.
and come through on the other side, you know.
Yeah.
And most of our life as men is just us. For those of us who have been in these situations where we didn't have that male figure to kind of lead us as much as we would have liked. A lot of times we just spend our life trying to become the men we wish we had as heroes,
Mhm.
and that's
Yeah.
really what it's about, man. Is like we need to become the men that we wish we had as a hero, for a lot of us, and if you had that, better it, because you can always be better. They should want to see you do better. I
Yeah.
don't want my when I have kids for them to go through the same shit that I've gone through, to have the same
Right.
struggles, to have the same pain. I want you to have
Mhm.
different pain. That I was like, oh, I never imagined how terrible it was to be born with money. All or it's like, oh,
Right.
you poor baby, you grew up in you grew up in a big house on a beach. It's like, oh, you poor thing. It's
Right.
like
Right.
Mike Tyson says, like, oh, you're silly. You don't want to be a fighter. You don't want to meet somebody like me. I'd kill you in the ring.
What he
It's
say?
like,
He said, "My son's a pussy," but he was like, and I was like,
and he
"Oh, but
wants that for him. That's the fucked up part. Is that
right,
he's like, I want
right,
you to be. I don't want you to be me.
right,
No, it's like I don't. It's like you're not me, and I don't want you to run
right,
into somebody like me. No, I don't want
right,
that for you. It's like, please don't do
100%,
this. It's like this will end
right."
terribly for you.
I think most boxers say that about their kids. They don't want their
Yeah.
kids to do that. That they enjoy it and they've been able to make a successful career out of it,
Hmm.
but they don't want them to struggle in that same circuit. And just because you are the son of Mike Tyson or the daughter of Muhammad Ali doesn't mean that you're going to be at that same level that they were at.
Yeah.
And they're going to have even more pressure because now you're going to live in your parents' shadow, which is
Hmm.
another thing that you shouldn't do. You should not live in your parents'
Yeah.
shadow.
Yeah.
Um,
That's,
you
that's
had
yeah.
said something that I
Good.
think you had said something I think needs to be another conversation in its own right. A man trying to be the hero that he didn't have,
Mm.
that needs to be a conversation because I feel like we can get to a point where we have become as close to that hero as possible, but we're not going back to save ourselves that made us want to do that in the first place, which is a metaphysical, that's a whole thing.
Time loop.
That's a time loop, but it's,
Yeah.
sometimes we become that person for ourselves, but we don't go back and fix it for it. We just try to heal everybody else, and by that we're trying to heal ourselves, and it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to dig in that for another conversation for sure. Because that could be a whole conversation in itself.
That's
Absolutely.
another 2 hour conversation for sure.
But guys, I hope you guys really benefit from this conversation that we had. And we always forget to say this, and we say it at the end of the conversation: like and subscribe to the channel. Definitely tap in with us. We're at I think 820 something subscribers. We're
Yes,
looking to hit
sir.
that 1,000. We're not trying to look to hit that 1,000. We're gonna hit it, and we need your help in it. It's here's the thing, man. All you gotta do is just take this mouse and scroll it over with this finger, and boom, and boop,
Right.
and hit that like, man. Hit that subscribe. We're not even asking for a notifications, because we don't want you to have your notifications on, because that can be distract you and all that. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Of
Share.
course,
Share with
and
brothers
here's
that
the
need
thing, man.
this.
After
Yeah.
this 2 hours, the only payment we're asking for is for you to hit that like button and that subscribe button. That's all we're asking for. That's payment enough.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Or
definitely help us benefit.
I'm like,
Or you
that's
hop into the
touchy feely
Legion
and
and
all.
you
Right. You could get into the 8 Inner Gates course where we can talk about this with you, or all the
get
things
into
that we've
some
put up
deeper
in that course.
conversations. Woo. There's
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
things
yeah.
we can't say on YouTube. So if you think this gets spicy, you should hear
Mhm.
the conversations in the Legion, or in the community, and different things like we talk about off YouTube. Woo, man. Or in the
For
course,
sure.
because we got deep in the
Yeah.
course, man.
So yeah, the course. Check out the course. Check out the Legion. Let us know your thoughts about this as well. We want to get more engagement with you guys. There's no reason why we should have 820 subscribers and nobody is getting in on this, because we're doing it for you guys to figure out what is it that you need from honorable masculinity. What do you need from our community, or we can help you get to that a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tell us what you want. Tell us what you want, and
What
we'll
topics
provide
do
it.
you want to cover? What, things do you want to dive deeper into? What struggles have you faced? Maybe that we didn't cover on here.
Mm-hmm.
If you were raised by a single mom or in that situation, or and maybe you were raised by a single dad, what was that like for you? It was like, because we would love
I
to
want to
hear
have
your
that
dad
conversation.
perspective. Like,
Yeah,
you were raised by a single dad. What was that like, man? We would probably even bring you on to do a live just talking about that, of what that
100%.
situation was like, because we had neither one of us have experience with that one. So that
Right.
would be an awesome conversation. So definitely tap in with this man, whether it be down in the comments section after you hit the like and subscribe button. Definitely comments, and let us know what your feedback is, what you want to cover, the things you want to see,
Yeah.
how you feel about the topic that we covered. Did we miss something? Do you think we're both full of bullshit? Whatever it may be respectful, because you're
That was
not.
that too.
If you're not, I'm coming for you. If you're not respectful, so it's
Right.
like, it's like,
See me in the comments.
Edmund might not come for you, but I will. So I drop that axe on you, bro. It's just like, I start internet fights. I'm cool with
This is true. He will start an internet fight in a
it.
heartbeat.
And I will make content about you. It's like, that's the best
Right.
part. It's like, you'll start some mess and I'll take it on here.
Right. Right. But yeah, guys,
I'm an
check out
escalator.
our check out our other previous episodes on all everywhere podcasts are streaming, YouTube podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, all that good stuff. Also check out our social media, Instagram, X, Facebook,
Facebook,
all of that good stuff.
Twitter.
And yeah, man.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you already said X. My bad.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no worries. But yeah, man. Let us know what you thought about this episode, and remember, it's time to fight your fight. Let us know how we can help you fight your fight, because it's always better to be a warrior in the garden.
Then the Garden of War. Oh, and one more before we head out, guys.
Yeah.
If you do have any questions specifically for either one of us, we do now have a Nect, which is an app where you can actually ask us individual questions and get your questions
Yeah.
answered, where doesn't have to be in the comments section or anything like that. If you want to keep it private, hit us up on Connect, hit those links, and you can definitely ask us, tap in, whether it be a text or a voice message or a video call, and
Yeah.
actually get those. That's brand new, so we just did that, so we can actually answer some of these questions that you guys have. They're maybe a little more,
Personal.
yeah, a little more personal, a little more private. So, we're just something you want just directly to where you want that answer now. I want
Right.
to answer now.
Right. Right.
So definitely tap in for that, and hit those links, man, in the bottom, and leave us a comment, and let's get this going. Let's keep fighting this fight, and let's become better men for not just ourselves, but for the next generation coming, so they don't have to have these same conversations moving forward. They can have
Right.
bigger, better problems and become bigger, better men. All right, guys.
Absolutely.
We'll see
Check
you
you guys
guys
next time.
next time. Keep an eye out for our next video. Next Friday, we'll be dropping a new episode. We will not be live, but definitely check that out. And don't forget this Sunday to check out the Legion open house that we have. We'll be dropping the links probably at the bottom of this. Just linking to that video. Like I said, it's going to be live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So tap in with us, check us out, and we will see you guys next time. Take it easy.
Peace.